Friday. Prayers used to fill city mosques from Jakarta to Casablanca. But now, viral headlines ask why so many prayer halls stand half empty, and why ministries report a surge of Muslim background seekers embracing Jesus. Has the unthinkable happened? Are we witnessing history's quietest religious upheaval? The answer, as the data reveals, is far more complex and controversial than anyone expected. In Tehran, a cleric stands before a nearly silent prayer hall. Rows of empty carpets stretch toward the mihrab, where once worshippers pressed shoulder to shoulder. In 2015, reports counted more than 75,000 mosques across Iran, with Friday prayers drawing crowds that spilled into courtyards and city streets. By 2025, public statements from religious leaders tell a different story. Roughly 50,000 mosques now stand closed or underused, many without a prayer leader, their doors locked or their halls echoing with absence. The scene is painfully empty. The contrast is not confined to Iran. In Jakarta, the Istiqlal Mosque claims to be the largest in Southeast Asia, designed to hold up to 120,000 worshippers. Archival broadcasts from a decade ago show its marble floors filled with men and women in neat rows, the air alive with whispered supplication. Recent visitor-shared clips posted openly on social platforms reveal quieter scenes. Clusters of worshippers scattered across vast open spaces, with entire wings left untouched during regular prayers. The bustle of Friday afternoons has faded in some corners, replaced by the low hum of distant traffic and the call to prayer echoing off empty tiles. The mood is quieter. In Casablanca, the Hassan II Mosque rises above the Atlantic, a landmark built to accommodate more than 80,000 at peak. Footage from Eid prayers a decade ago captured a sea of bodies stretching from the prayer hall to the esplanade, every inch claimed. Now, social media videos from ordinary Fridays show smaller gatherings, with older worshippers seated near the front, while the back rows remain unfilled. Some users comment that the energy of youth is missing, replaced by a quiet that feels unfamiliar. The absence feels missing. In Kuala Lumpur, the National Mosque once brimmed with families and students, especially during Ramadan. Ministry reports estimate that in 2015, up to 2 million Muslims across the city attended Jumu'ah prayers each week. In 2025, drone clips and tourist vlogs capture a more subdued scene. The main hall comfortably holds those who arrive, but the overflow courtyards stand mostly empty, even on holy days. The rhythm of daily life continues outside, with commuters passing by as worshippers file in and out, their numbers no longer stretching the mosque's capacity. The impression is subdued. In Istanbul, the Blue Mosque and the newer Kamlika Mosque have long served as symbols of Turkey's religious heritage. News agency footage from Ramadan Fridays in the 2010s shows packed courtyards and lines of worshippers extending into Sultanahmet Square. More recent, date-stamped clips shared by locals capture prayers attended by smaller, quieter groups. The grandeur of the space accentuated by empty arches and sunlight falling on unoccupied carpets. Some users post side-by-side shots reflecting on how attendance seems to have shifted in just a decade. The contrast highlights the grandeur and the emptiness. Across these cities, the visual evidence is fragmentary but striking. Publicly shared videos and news archives offer glimpses of a change that is felt as much as it is seen. The images raise questions. Are these moments outliers captured during off-peak hours, or do they reflect a deeper pattern? In some places, especially rural areas, mosques remain vibrant hubs of community life, but in many urban centers, the footage reveals a subtle but unmistakable thinning of the crowds. The reasons remain uncertain, whether secularization, generational change, or something more profound is at work. What is certain is that the familiar sight of overflowing mosques is no longer guaranteed, and the debate over what these images mean has only begun. Not long after the first images of thinning mosque crowds began circulating online, Christian ministries with a presence in Southeast Asia and the Middle East started to notice a steady uptick in public inquiries. In early 2025, one well-known international ministry released a press statement noting an unprecedented number of messages from Muslim background individuals, most of them young adults, expressing curiosity about Christianity. These were not secret requests or hidden conversions, but open questions sent through public websites, social pages, and official contact forms. The language of these inquiries varied, but a common thread ran through them. People were searching for meaning beyond what they felt in their inherited traditions. Some wrote that they had seen videos or read posts about others leaving Islam and wondered what drew them to the Christian faith. Others asked for Bibles or links to live-streamed church services, or simply wanted to know what Christians believed about forgiveness and grace. Ministry staff, speaking on record to local newspapers in Malaysia and Indonesia, described a gentle but persistent wave of seekers, many of whom had never before reached out to a church or Christian group. Public church websites in Jakarta and Istanbul began reporting a rise in traffic from users with Muslim-majority country IP addresses. In February 2025, a regional Christian broadcaster posted on its official social media that its Arabic and Indonesian Bible study hotlines were receiving double their usual call volume, with callers openly identifying themselves as Muslims interested in learning about Jesus. The broadcaster clarified that most conversations did not lead to conversion, but the surge in interest was impossible to ignore. Local Christian leaders in Turkey and North Africa echoed these reports in interviews with national news outlets. One Turkish pastor, quoted in a March 2025 article, described receiving dozens of emails each week from university students who said they had grown up in Muslim households but now felt adrift, drawn to explore Christianity after seeing testimonies online or hearing about friends who had left the mosque. In Morocco, a public roundtable hosted by a Casablanca church was live-streamed on YouTube, attracting hundreds of comments from viewers across the region, many asking questions about Christian beliefs. The pattern stretched beyond the Middle East. In Kuala Lumpur, a mainline Protestant church issued a public notice in April 2025, thanking the community for their patience as the church responded to a steady stream of questions from young adults raised in Muslim families. The statement did not claim mass conversions or dramatic revivals, but it did acknowledge a growing openness, one that was visible and measurable in the public square. These early ministry alerts did not come with statistics or sweeping claims. Instead, they traced a new kind of buzz, a quiet but steady curiosity moving through open channels, visible to anyone willing to look. The question was no longer whether anyone was asking, but how many would keep searching, and what, if anything, would come next. Across the last decade, global religious demographics have shifted in ways that defy simple headlines. The world's two largest faiths, Christianity and Islam, have both grown, but not at the same pace or in the same regions. Between 2015 and 2025, the number of Christians worldwide increased by approximately 360 million, rising from 2.24 billion to 2.6 billion. During that same period, the Muslim population grew by about 230 million, from 1.77 billion to 2 billion. These numbers, drawn from Pew Research and the World Christian Database, reflect not only conversions, but also high birth rates, especially in sub-Saharan Africa and parts of Asia. Christianity's surge owes much to the demographic momentum of the Global South. In Nigeria, the Democratic Republic of Congo, and Ethiopia, millions of children are born each year to Christian families, and most are raised in the faith. The same holds for the Philippines and parts of China, where local churches report steady expansion, even as religious practice in the West declines. Islam's growth is also propelled by youthful populations and high fertility rates, particularly in countries like Egypt, Pakistan, and Bangladesh. Yet, the absolute increase in Christian adherence outpaces that of Muslims over this 10-year span. A closer look at the numbers reveals that the story is not simply about one faith overtaking another. In some Western countries, Muslims are a small but growing minority, often bolstered by immigration and conversions from other backgrounds. In the United States, for example, roughly a quarter of Muslims are converts, many of them former Christians. In Europe, annual conversion estimates range in the low thousands for countries like the UK, France, and Germany. Meanwhile, Christianity's largest gains are concentrated in regions where Islam is less dominant, or where religious switching is difficult to measure due to legal and social constraints. Demographers point out that these figures are not just the result of spiritual movements or missionary efforts. They are shaped by complex patterns of birth, retention, migration, and in some cases, disaffiliation. In Iran, where official mosque closures have drawn international attention, the decline in attendance is linked as much to political disillusionment and generational change as to religious conversion. In sub-Saharan Africa, the appeal of Christianity is often intertwined with social networks, education, and responses to local crises. The global scale of these shifts becomes clear when viewed alongside the broader patterns of religious change. Christianity remains the world's largest faith, and its absolute growth between 2015 and 2025 is unmatched by any other tradition. Islam continues to grow rapidly, but the gap in total numbers has widened over the past decade. If current trends continue, some projections suggest that the two faiths could reach near parity by 2075, but only if retention rates and fertility patterns remain stable. For now, the evidence points to a world where both Christianity and Islam are expanding, but with Christianity adding more adherents in raw numbers, driven largely by the demographic engine of the Global South. A leading demographer describes the situation this way: Africa's demographic surge has propelled Christians into renewed global numerical dominance. These shifts are not evenly distributed, nor do they play out the same way in every city or country. Instead, they provide a factual baseline for understanding the scale of change behind the headlines and viral claims. As the investigation turns to how these numbers are counted and what they really mean, the methods and limitations of measuring religious affiliation come into sharper focus. Estimating the true size of mosque crowds is less straightforward than it might appear. Headlines and viral posts often rely on eye-catching images, but accurate crowd measurement depends on a careful process that combines visual evidence with demographic modeling. Researchers begin by gathering public video clips, news broadcasts, and high-resolution photographs taken during peak prayer times, usually Jumu'ah on Fridays. Each source is cataloged with its date, location, and vantage point. Before any counting starts, analysts verify that the footage matches the claimed mosque and event, using architectural features, minaret placement, and city landmarks as reference points. The next step is frame sampling. Analysts select moments when the congregation is at its fullest, rows formed, worshippers standing shoulder to shoulder. From these frames, they divide the visible area into polygons, main halls, courtyards, and overflow spaces. Known dimensions, such as the length of a prayer hall or the width of a courtyard, are cross-checked against satellite imagery or architectural plans. Where possible, objects of standard size like cars or tile patterns are used to calibrate the scale. Within each polygon, a sample count is performed. In high-quality images, individuals are counted directly. In lower-resolution footage, average density is estimated. In a packed prayer row, each person typically occupies about 0.7 square meters. Densities can range from 1.5 to 2.5 people per square meter in crowded situations, but rarely exceed that for safety and comfort. These density figures are multiplied by the measured area to generate a range of possible attendance numbers. The process is repeated for each section of the mosque, with totals summed for a single event. To account for uncertainty, analysts report a margin of error, typically plus or minus 30 to 40%. This wide band reflects real-world challenges. Camera angles may obscure parts of the crowd, lighting can hide faces, and some worshippers may pray outside the camera field of view. Viral videos often highlight extremes, either unusually empty or exceptionally crowded scenes, so researchers compare footage from multiple dates and angles, looking for consistent patterns rather than one-off anomalies. Temporal sampling is essential. Attendance is highest at Friday midday prayers, but drops sharply during weekday prayers or outside of Ramadan. Comparing a packed Eid morning to a quiet weekday afternoon would mislead, so analysts focus on apples-to-apples comparisons, Fridays to Fridays, similar times of year, and similar weather conditions. Whenever possible, crowd estimates from video are cross-checked with official mosque capacity figures, local news reports, and city-level population models. For example, if a mosque is designed for 20,000, but drone footage shows only half the hall occupied, the estimate is adjusted accordingly. Biases are inevitable. Social media users may post footage that supports their point of view, and news outlets may focus on the most dramatic images. To guard against this, researchers flag clips with unclear provenance or signs of manipulation, such as reused footage or altered timestamps, and exclude them from calculations. Only sources with verifiable metadata and consistent context are included in the final data set. The result is not a precise head count, but a credible range grounded in replicable methods. This approach gives viewers a toolkit for evaluating crowd claims. Look for time-stamped, well-sourced footage. Check the density and scale. Remember the error band. By applying these standards, the investigation can move beyond hype and speculation, setting the stage for a closer audit of the numbers behind the headlines. Claims of mass conversion have a way of multiplying as they move from pulpit to press release to viral video. The word claims often outpaces the evidence. The figure most often repeated, more than 1 million Muslims converting to Christianity each year, has become a fixture in sermons, newsletters, and online debates. Numbers like that are powerful, and they spread quickly. Yet when these numbers are traced back to their source, the trail quickly grows faint. One of the earliest and most influential examples dates to 2001, when an Egyptian sheikh, interviewed on Al Jazeera, declared that 667 Muslims were leaving Islam for Christianity every hour. The math was breathless: 16,000 a day, 6 million a year. The claim spread rapidly, repeated by Christian ministries and cited in fundraising appeals. But no supporting documentation was ever produced. Journalists and researchers who tried to verify the statement found only echoes: no audited baptism records, no church rolls, no census tallies. Public reports from the World Christian Database and Pew Research Center, two of the most widely cited authorities on global religion, do not corroborate these figures. The available evidence points in a different direction. Pew's demographic models, which combine census data, survey responses, and projections of birth and retention rates, estimate that over the past decade, net conversions between Islam and Christianity have been modest, likely in the tens of thousands, not millions. In Indonesia, home to the world's largest Muslim population, Christian growth has been driven almost entirely by birth rates in Christian-majority regions, not by mass conversions from Islam. In Turkey and Malaysia, where religious switching is rare and often discouraged by law, national surveys and government statistics show little evidence of large-scale movement between faiths. Ministry reports sometimes cite surges in Bible downloads or spikes in inquiries as proof of mass conversions. In 2023 and 2024, Arabic and Indonesian Bible apps did see increased downloads, often during times of crisis or political unrest. But app analytics cannot distinguish between curiosity, private study, and actual conversion. Similarly, Christian broadcasters in the Middle East and Southeast Asia report millions of viewers for their satellite and online programming. Those numbers reflect audience size, not changes in religious identity. Viewership is not the same as conversion. A closer look at the numbers reveals additional complications. In the United States and Western Europe, the pattern often runs in the opposite direction. Muslims gain more converts from other faiths than they lose, particularly among young adults seeking a sense of belonging. Pew's projections from 2015 to 2025 show that Christianity has grown by about 360 million worldwide, while Islam has added 230 million. But these gains are attributed almost entirely to high birth rates and retention in sub-Saharan Africa and parts of Asia, not to mass religious switching. The lack of independent audits is a recurring problem. Most conversion claims rely on self-reports, ministry estimates, or counts of public testimonies. In regions where leaving Islam carries social or legal risks, many conversions remain private and unrecorded. Where public baptisms do occur, denominational rolls are rarely made available for outside scrutiny. Double counting is common, as individuals may be reported by multiple organizations. As a result, the most sensational claims, millions of Muslims converting each year, mosques emptying across continents, remain unsubstantiated. The word hype often outpaces the facts. What can be said with confidence is that there is real, visible movement, a steady trickle of seekers, a growing number of public testimonies, and a rising openness to explore Christianity in places where it was once unthinkable are all documented in public sources. But separating fact from hype requires caution. The numbers behind the headlines are far smaller and far more complex than the slogans suggest. In the absence of audited records, the story of religious change is best told not through inflated tallies. It is best told through the lived experiences of individuals willing to share their journey in the open. A young man sits before a camera in a small apartment, his words measured as he recalls a life shaped by faith and by questions. Raised in Casablanca, his earliest memories are of prayers recited with family, the rhythm of mosque services, the certainty of tradition. Yet as he entered university, the certainty began to slip. He describes nights spent scrolling through social media, stumbling onto Christian podcasts, and eventually downloading a Bible app out of curiosity. I read the Gospels for the first time, he says quietly, and I met Jesus as someone who spoke to me, not just to the world. His story is not unusual anymore. Over the past 5 years, the number of YouTube channels and podcasts featuring former Muslims sharing their journeys has surged. In 2020, searching for ex-Muslim testimony in Turkish or Indonesian brought up a handful of obscure clips. By 2025, entire playlists exist, some channels drawing tens of thousands of followers. Arabic-language podcasts now feature guests from Iran, Algeria, and Malaysia, each offering a different path but echoing the same themes: the search for peace, the burden of guilt, the shock of encountering Christ as a living presence. Some describe dreams, others a conversation with a friend, or the words of a borrowed New Testament. The details shift, but the refrain is familiar: a longing for forgiveness, a sense of being seen. These stories don't stay hidden in the corners of the internet. Comment sections fill with questions from Muslims, some curious, some skeptical, some quietly searching. They ask about the pain of leaving the mosque, about the first Christian prayer, about the loneliness and the hope. A podcast episode with a former imam from Jakarta, now leading a small Christian group, draws over 100,000 views in its first month. He speaks of the cost, family lost, community gone, but also of a new sense of belonging. He forgave me, the former imam says, when I could not forgive myself. The growth is visible in the numbers. Between 2023 and 2025, Arabic and Indonesian ex-Muslim testimony channels with over 10,000 subscribers have doubled. Podcast platforms report steady increases in downloads for episodes tagged conversion, testimony, or encountering Jesus. While these channels remain small compared to mainstream religious media, their impact is clear: a digital archive of personal stories open to anyone who searches. For many, these voices put a human face to statistics debated by scholars and clerics. The stories are not about sweeping movements, but about individuals finding in Jesus a grace and relationship they say they could not find elsewhere. Church leaders in Istanbul and Kuala Lumpur report more visitors mentioning online testimonies as their first step. Some arrive with questions, others with fear, but all describe a sense of recognition, a realization that their doubts are shared. The testimonies rarely end in certainty. More often, they close with a quiet admission. I am still searching, but I know I am not alone. In Indonesia, the world's largest Muslim-majority country, publicly available church records and ministry statements present a measured picture. National census data up to 2023 show Christianity holding steady at around 7 to 10% of the population, with no audited surge in membership or baptisms linked to recent conversions from Islam. Denominational yearbooks and regional church filings report stable or modest growth, most of it concentrated in Christian-majority provinces outside the urban Muslim heartlands. In Jakarta, local Protestant and Catholic congregations acknowledge a slight uptick in inquiries from Muslim background seekers, often citing digital engagement, but these remain a small fraction of overall attendance. The numbers do not point to a wave, but rather to a quiet, ongoing stream, visible in Sunday school enrollments and in requests for Bible study materials. North Africa presents a similarly cautious story. Algeria, Morocco, and Tunisia remain overwhelmingly Muslim by census, with Christianity accounting for less than 1% of the population. Open church gatherings are rare, and most Christian activity takes place in private homes or unregistered fellowships. Public data on church membership is scarce, but reports from the World Christian Database and local observers suggest that the total number of Muslim background believers across the region remains in the low tens of thousands. In Morocco, for example, Protestant and Catholic communities have issued statements noting a rise in spiritual curiosity and digital outreach, but no verifiable spike in formal conversions or baptisms. Broadcast reach has expanded dramatically across both regions, yet the impact on church growth is difficult to measure. Satellite channels like SAT7 and Al Hayat report millions of monthly viewers for Arabic and Indonesian Christian programming, but these figures reflect audience size, not verified religious switching. In 2023, SAT7 estimated 20 to 30 million monthly viewers in the Middle East and North Africa, with a growing share engaging through mobile apps and social media. Indonesian language Bible apps have climbed into the top 10 globally for downloads, especially during periods of political unrest or social crisis. However, app analytics show interest and exploration, not changes in religious identity. Churches in Jakarta and Casablanca have responded to increased digital engagement by offering more public question and answer sessions and live-streamed services. Local leaders emphasize that most new faces are curious, not committed, drawn by online testimonies or personal crises, but rarely ready to join a church formally. Ministry staff in Indonesia describe the process as gradual. Seekers may attend an online event, download a Bible, and spend months or years exploring before taking any public step. In North Africa, church leaders report similar patterns, with most newcomers preferring anonymity and privacy. Taken together, the available evidence points to a steady, incremental movement rather than dramatic gains. Christian congregations in Indonesia and North Africa are more visible online and more accessible to seekers than ever before, but audited membership rolls show only modest increases. Broadcast and digital media have widened the invitation, yet the measurable results remain small compared to the scale of public interest. The numbers support a story of openness and curiosity, one that is growing but not exploding. Reliable estimates from the past decade point to a steady but modest flow of Muslims becoming Christians worldwide. Across countries where open reporting is possible, the best-supported figures suggest that between 200,000 and 450,000 people with Muslim backgrounds have converted to Christianity from 2015 to 2025. This range is based on public testimonies, church records, where available, and demographic modeling by organizations such as Pew Research and the World Christian Database. The highest numbers are reported in regions like Iran, where disillusionment with state religion and exposure to Christian media have led to tens of thousands of documented conversions, though most remain private due to risk. In Indonesia and North Africa, the pattern holds: visible curiosity and scattered public baptisms, but no audited mass movement. Globally, the annual rate of conversion is measured in tens of thousands, not millions. Ministry claims of 1 million or more each year are not supported by independent audits or census data. Instead, the evidence shows a persistent, incremental trend, hundreds of thousands over a decade, with the true number likely higher due to underreporting, but still far below the viral headlines. The story is one of gradual change, not sudden collapse. Sorting fact from fiction in religious trends requires a clear approach. When confronted with new claims, whether about mosque attendance or conversion numbers, 3 questions can guide the search for truth. First, ask about transparency. Does the source provide clear data or only sweeping statements? Reliable figures come from organizations willing to share their methods and original datasets, such as Pew Research or the World Christian Database. Second, check for auditing. Are the numbers supported by independent reviews, census data, or third-party verification? Claims that circulate without documentation, like the oft-repeated figure of millions per year, should be treated with caution until they are corroborated by public records or audited membership rolls. Third, examine the method. Are the numbers based on self-reports, digital downloads, or actual head counts? Credible research explains how data were collected, what was measured, and what limitations exist. By applying this checklist of transparency, auditing, and method clarity, viewers can evaluate future headlines and viral posts with confidence. Not every claim will meet these standards, but those that do will stand up to scrutiny, helping separate genuine trends from exaggerated or unsupported narratives. Religious identity is shifting in real time, fueled by digital access, global migration, and generational change. While viral claims race ahead of hard evidence, the search for meaning remains urgent and deeply personal. Faith's landscape grows more complex and more public, with every testimony posted, every statistic debated. In this moment, the real story is not empty buildings, but restless hearts still seeking answers. What direction that search takes next will shape communities for decades to come.